everyone, and welcome to another video. This week we'll be talking about how I published 13 books in 5 years. It might sound like a lot, and maybe it is, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how I did it. It all starts in Corona times, back when people were quarantined and when many students like me had a lot of time on their hands. My classes were online, and I had a lot of time to pursue any hobbies that I might want to. And so I was in this group online where we wrote storylines together based on Degrassi characters. Degrassi is a Canadian TV show, if you don't know it yet. I'll be making a Degrassi video sometime for sure too. But so me and my friends, we were making storylines there together. And one friend said, you and this one friend, you're so good at making stories together. You should write a book together based on this. And then I was like, well, we can't use Degrassi characters, of course, because those will be copyrighted, but we could make an entirely new story with entirely new characters and then write a book about that. So then I came up with a storyline and sent it to my friend, and she liked it. And then how we wrote the book was we each picked two characters to write chapters from. So I wrote chapters from the characters called Audrey and Dylan, and she wrote chapters from Tiffany and Zach. And that is how we wrote it together. We would write 1 to 3 chapters at a time and then send them to the other, and the other would respond with 1 to 3 chapters. And we would have a big storyline in our minds that we were working towards, and that's how the book got written. And that book is called Love and Loss in Camden. This book was released in June of 2021, and what it's about, I'll just read the back for you. Audrey is a young man who takes care of his dementing father, shutting himself off from everyone except his best friend Dylan, and only getting enjoyment from his baking. His sister Tiffany meanwhile dances at Juilliard in New York, living the dream. But when their dad worsens, she returns to Camden with her music-loving boyfriend Zachary. A lot can change in a short time. So that's the premise of that book. And it's a book that's very dear to my heart. And I wrote a sequel for it as well, but we'll get to that later. So that was my first book, Love and Loss in Camden by Vida Luna, and then Dion is my friend who wrote this one with me. Then we get to the fall of 2021, or autumn, depending on where you live. Then I wrote myself, Daniel, David, and Denise. This is about a girl named Denise. She goes clubbing in Newcastle in the 90s, and she kisses this guy, and she loses him in the crowd, and she doesn't catch his name because it's too loud. Now this was back before social media, so she thinks she's never going to see him again. But when she spots someone in a cafe who looks just like him, she starts to talk to him, they hit it off, and he introduces himself as Daniel, and they plan a date. But what she doesn't realize is that the guy at the club wasn't Daniel, it was David, the twin brother of Daniel. And so this book was really fun to write and very complicated because you had to think in your head, what does which character know? Of course, Denise doesn't know that Daniel and David are two people, that they're twins. You have to keep that in mind when you write it. You have to keep in mind which scenes Daniel and Denise have together, which scenes David and Denise have together, and how it all plays out. And it was a really fun one to write, and it's also very Christmassy. Well, it ends in Christmas. So if you're still looking for a book to gift this Christmas or to read in this season, Daniel, David, and Denise could be something for you. So then we got to early 2022. I don't think I wrote that much bookish-wise that year because that was when I wrote a thesis for my master in English literature, and I wrote it about movies, about Wes Anderson's movies and love, loss, and belonging. It's out there in the student repository for free for anyone to read. So if you like that kind of thing. I also wrote a bachelor thesis before about disguises of aliens in Animorphs and Third Rock from the Sun. So those are some things that aren't books, and they don't count towards the 13, but I wrote them. And then after I graduated, I started working on finishing up a time travel story, which is not yet published. I took it to an agency. It didn't get into the agency, but I'm gonna refine it. I'm gonna keep working at that story, and I'm sure that someday it will be on the shelves. So yeah, and I'm excited for that. And then what happened then? Well, in 2022, I had actually written a story as well, because a friend of mine, she had made this prompt list, and then every day of a month, you would try to write something that had to do with that prompt. And so I worked on that for the month, and it led to me putting all of the prompts in one single story. And that story was The Facility, Brecken and Co.'s Strange Discoveries Volume 1, The Facility. And every chapter in there has a discovery as a title. So the first discovery is a basement full of art, because Brecken, he discovers a basement full of art when he's a kid, and then when he's a bit older, he realizes, wait, my parents stole this art. And then his parents realize that he knows, and they lock him up in this strange facility, and he has to find a way to escape. He makes new friends. Zoot is one of my favorite characters, and I really love this series because this is what became a series. I wrote 5 books, 5 volumes, and then, so how many are we at now? That would be 7 releases, right? 7 releases. And then my 8th release was this one, which is a bundle of all of the stories put together. And they're all together in one. So you have The Facility, you have The Aftermath, which is this one with the little mouse. You have The Search, you have The Escape, and you have the finale. And that's the 5 books. And I really love this series. It's if you think what kind of vibes would it have, it's a bit of Animorphs vibes, it's a bit of Lemony Snicket vibes. That's the kind of vibes that are in this series, so if you like that kind of thing. And this, why would I count the bundle as an extra book? Well, because it has a lot of extra stories in there, has a lot of extra things, it has fun facts, it has a bit about how the book was made, and yeah, it has 5 short stories, and it really puts everything together. A timeline for me writing these, if you look at when The Facility was released, it was in 2023, and this bundle came out in 2024. So it took me, I'd say, about 1.5 years to get all of these books out, maybe a little less. At the start of 2024, I didn't write a lot because I lost a very dear friend of mine, and then I only wrote about 2 pages in that month on the stories in this bundle. But slowly but surely, the stories started flowing again, and then around April, I'd like to say, is when the bundle came out. So now we have, how many books do you have now? 8 books. 8 books! That's pretty good. What happened next was in the fall of 2023, I wrote the sequel to Love and Loss in Camden, called Secrets and Soul in Camden. I love this one so much. It takes place 8 years after the first summer, so that's quite a while. And you still have Audrey, you still have Zach, you still have Tiffany, you still have Dylan, and we're following their lives as they are each keeping a secret. Also, sorry if I touch my nose, I have a slight cold and it's very itchy. I'm trying not to. Okay, so anyway, it's a book that means a lot to me because I love seeing the characters again, and I'm actually writing a 3rd book right now, which takes place 10 years after the first one, 2 years after this one, and in the end we'll have 4 seasons of Camden, which is what the series is called. So now we're on to, are we on to 9 books? No. Yes. We're on to 9 books now. Yes. Okay, so book 10. Okay, so while I was writing these books, I was working as a lunch hour teacher at a school, and then I was busy writing making a short story bundle when two kids came to me and they said, why don't you make a book about our superhero stories that we play on the playgrounds? We can make it together. And I said, sure. So that's how we made Heroes of Sky City with Lucas van der Graaf and Manouk. Lucas made the cover that you see here. He drew all of this. He drew a lot of things in the book, and Manouk helped write the story. And that's how we wrote this together. We had a book launch with a little party. We went to the bookstore. It was a lot of fun. Now I'm actually working on part 2 of Heroes of Sky City with them, which will have brand new drawings. You can see how much they've progressed with their art, with their storytelling, and so there'll be more of that to come. It's about 3 kids named Alex, Luna, and Emily. Alex's dad kicks him out of the house, and then Luna helps him discover that he has technological superpowers. She and her baby sister Louise also have powers. Luna can control the elements, and Louise has animal powers. They're recruited by a hero agency, and they're sent to help people on missions. Once Emily joins them, they go on their biggest mission yet. Emily wants to find her mom while villains are trying to steal something mysterious from the bank. So that's Heroes of Sky City. I've met a lot of kids who've loved reading this one. And now we come to book 11. Lost and Found, Volume 1. Tales of Hope for Young and Old. This is a collection of short stories that I wrote over the years, edited to be extra good for the story bundle. The first one I actually wrote when I was about 16, 17 for my high school end project. And it's about the 5 stages of grief, because it's about this girl who loses her parents, and then she has to go through the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But she goes through them in a kind of fantasy landscape way. So the first thing she sees is trees who are losing their leaves, but they're denying that winter is coming. And so that's denial. And then she goes through all of these things. The trees are also talking. It's kind of funny, despite it being about grief. It also has a lot of humor. If you like things like Diana Winnie Jones, this might be for you. And then there's other stories. Another one I wrote in senior year of high school. One that I started telling when I was 10 years old, and so some I wrote more recently. And it's a nice collection. It has drawings. My mom drew the cat, yes, and I drew everything else with real ink and one of those scratchy kind of pens. And then I have volume 2, which is stories for adults. These are all stories almost all that I handed in to competitions and that didn't win. And so I wrote a lot of short stories, and I put them all in this bundle. And also part of these books' proceeds go to the Fannie Lou Hamer Cancer Foundation, which is an important cause. So if you want to support that, get volume 2 of Lost and Found. And it has some good stories in there. Some stories that make people cry, and some stories that make people laugh. So I hope you enjoy that. That will be book 12, I think, if I've kept count. And then my final one for now is the poetry bundle. These are poems. A lot of them I have also written for competitions. Some I've written just for this book. And now they're all together in a bundle. And I also, again, made some drawings for it. Lucas actually designed this teacup, and I designed all the other drawings. And that's the 13th book. So that's how in 5 years I published 13 books. I did it via Kindle direct publishing. You have to do all the formatting yourself. You have to do all the promoting yourself, which is why I'm here making this video for you guys. I hope that there's something in these books that might speak to you, and I hope that you enjoy them. Next up will be Camden 3 and Heroes of Sky City 2. And there was also, the kids are also making a special Heroes of Sky City specials where they themselves write the stories in English, which I'm very proud of them because we're Dutch, we're not English. But I studied English so that I could write all these books. And now I'm gonna say goodbye. Tot ziens. And next week there will be an interesting video because I have to record something for my internship. You'll see what that is. Bye! Any questions about any of the books? Leave them in the comments. I'll answer them.